Hello again, everybody. After a very long break, but I'm still around. I just thought I would look at this illegal immigration project, as I call it, and look at some of the figures that really aren't reported in terms of the overall trend over time, and see how recently all this started and what the trend is through the various so-called governments. And anyway, let's press on and have a look. So as you can see, many boats, these massive great boats with about 50 to 70 people on, and generally most of them are young men. There is the odd woman, but generally it's youngish men on these boats. Now, there is an information source on the government website. So you've got this site here, and it's small boat arrivals. This is talking about the last 7 days. And if you look at this page here, there's a time series, and if you click that, you can download this spreadsheet looking at the migrants that have been detected crossing the English Channel in small boats. So I've taken that spreadsheet and downloaded it, and basically you can see here it's got week ending, migrants arrived, boats arrived, arrived involved in uncontrolled landings, so there's hardly any of those, they're all controlled, migrants prevented, and then what I've got here is total migrants cumulative. So I've put this column in, and what I've done is I've totaled all these up into this column, and you can see from and I'll explain the significance of this date here, from the 11th of June 2021 to the 25th of May 2025, 153,000 people arriving in 3,600 boats. So I've just summed basically the number of boats and the number of migrants arrived between those two dates, and the reason for that is fairly evident when we look on. So that's one source of information, but I don't think you've seen any of the media report it in quite the way I'm reporting this. So we've also got this one, which is migrantwatchuk.org, and there's information sources here, and this one gives you the small boat crossings annually, and it can total that information up. All you tend to get on the government website is a weekly or the last 7 days where it shows you what's happening. So I've got information from that source as well, so you can just put small boats for the other information, small boats arrive in UK, and it will go to that government site. You can download that data, and you can go to this site here, which is shown there. And what I've done is I've tracked, based on that cumulative amount of immigrants, illegal immigrants. They are immigrants because they are coming here to stay here. They aren't economic migrants who are moving here, work, then move somewhere else. So they are immigrants, and they are definitely illegal based on UK laws. Now, if you look at the way this is tracked, this was when Boris Johnson was elected here, and this little green arrow, this line here, is when we had the UK, and I keep it in N, I'm sorry about that, COVID-19 lockdown here, I just keep putting an N in, I don't know why I do that. And if we look at this, it's gone up and up and up, and you can plot a pretty good straight line all the way through that, and that hits this line here on the 11th of April 2021, when 12,000 had already arrived. But you can see where it really kicked off was Boris Johnson coming in, and then we had this little, so we had lockdown, we did this little trial period where they came in here, and then it steadied off, and then bang. So the most COVID, and I've put that N in again there, I'm terrible with making that spelling mistake. Most of the lockdown restrictions were lifted, and at this point here, it was still basically lots of lockdown requirements, like people couldn't mix from different households and things like that. And while that was going on, wasn't this a convenient time to plan all this out? And as you can see, it doesn't really matter who was there. This was kicked off in Boris Johnson's alleged watch. We went through Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak, who says stop the boats. This was one of his pledges. And then we had this puppet here. Keir Starmer came in, and they're all saying it's taken off again. Well, it hasn't. It's just continued. So if we look at the data and we analyse it, this covers from here to the 25th of May, when I put all this information together. It'll still be going up at the same rate. Over that period is 215 weeks, and clearly it's a steep straight line rise. That is over the roughly 4-year period, a little bit more, 711. Sorry, there's no code mentioned there, it's just how it all works out. Arrivals per week over 4 years. So that's how many have been coming in, and it's not changed. And the weather doesn't seem to make a bit of difference. You've got little peaks, and maybe this is when the weather's bad. But basically, we are bringing these illegals in. So most of the illegal immigrants are probably still here. There's been people in a hotel not so far away from me, and they arrived in 2021, or it could have been earlier, it could have been before the lockdown started, but it was definitely early in the lockdown. They were moved into that hotel, and they're still there, or it's still fully occupied by illegal immigrants. Now, the cost per illegal immigrant has been quoted at around $50,000 per year, which is around £137 per day. But if you think about it, they're being put up in hotels. The hotels are being paid probably premium rates. They are getting food, they're getting money, they're getting mobiles, they're getting training, all kinds of things, free bus passes, free this, free that. And you have to ask, why is all that being done? Well, there are a series of reasons I would probably come to, and I'll probably talk about that a little later. But over that period, 152,800 have arrived since this happened here, and that will cost per year £7.6 billion. Yeah, that's a hell of a lot of money, and as it increases, that cost is still, all our taxes are going up, and so on. So this was all organised by the world's elite and trialled and prepared whilst the UK was in COVID lockdown. That's just my opinion. Hotels were empty and desperate for money. That's very, very convenient, isn't it? And of course, not just the hotels and these costs. In this 137, there's all the profit from all these companies that are managing this activity, and some of those companies are the ones that were managing all the testing and that during this period of nonsense here. Yeah. So anyway, I'm sorry to keep trying not to call it that, but it does tend to happen. So the puppet governments, and these are puppets. These do not run the country. They are puppets. They are scripted. And what's happening is exactly what the world's elite, and I have to call them that. That's not a good word for me to actually call them, but I mean all the kind of banks, mega companies, secret societies, all their code that they use and everything else. This has all been organised, and the rate of arrivals, despite Starmer promising to smash the gangs and stop the boats from Rishi Sunak, they have done nothing. That is because the people that run them are the people that are running this project. And it will only stop when they have enough of these people in. Clearly they do want them in, and they want enough here. Now, the reasons could be a number of reasons. It could be, we talked about replacement theories, and the UK people are so in debt and struggling that the birth rate falls because they can't afford children. and some people will leave the country. Some people may fall to whatever medical intervention was happened during this period here. But I don't want to get too much into that. But definitely this is a project. And despite them keep showing the weekly arrivals and all that, nothing is going to change until they have met their target. And if you went back before all this started and you told somebody we're going to have hundreds of thousands of these people, they're all going to be put up in hotels at your expense, you would think it was crazy. It still is crazy. On paper, it's absolutely ridiculous. This could be stopped. It should never have been started, but this could be stopped instantly. But it's a project, and they are coming in, maybe to replace, maybe to drop the status of this country now, and a lot of the Western countries to more third world type, more easy to control situations. Who knows? But it is a project. So that's the data. So there's no sudden increases or stops. These are just probably due to the type of weather that are happening. But things have changed a little. And if you're going to smash the gangs, well, we've got the major gang that run these gangs, the RNLI, the UK Border Force, and the French Navy and French border patrols and everything else. So what tends to happen is these boats sail out, they're escorted by the French, and they're picked up by the UK, and before they probably even get through the major shipping channels. But they do cause issues, and having lots of these little boats floating across every day may not be the best way of running this scam or this project. So what they tend to do is to sail them all over in a flotilla. There's less disruption, they get it all done, and you can see this pattern happening now. So this is just the illegal immigrants over 2025, and you can see in these, there probably is weather to some extent playing, but just more lately we're getting lots more boats on a few days and lots of zeros. Now, we had very, very stable weather all the way through to late May, but we had these periods where there were no boats, but they were coming over in little surges, little flotillas, and that is probably because it's actually being organised by, let's go back, sorry, I've gone the wrong way, it's being organised by the gangs, okay, and they probably halt shipping and make sure it's all properly managed to get these over. And also, if things like the life belts are probably being returned to the French authorities, and possibly the dinghies, and we'll get on to that. Now, the small boat arrivals in the last 7 days, this was the week after I put all this data together, and you saw they got 18 boats on the 31st of May. Well, the weather wasn't drastically different, and I have checked that, but clearly it's more efficient to bring them over in a flotilla rather than single boats all the way through the week. And if we take a look at these, you can see all these people coming in. Now, I'm not sure what is happening with the dinghies, but I've tried to look at lots and lots of photos, and they aren't towing the dinghies in. So where are the big dinghies going? And in total, over that period where it kicked off in 2021, there's been 3,600 of these boats and 3,600 outboard motors, and they can't smash the gangs. Yeah. So they don't leave any trails for all that. Yes, our Inland Revenue can now detect whether people have been selling things on Facebook, and they can chase you down with their AI system, artificial intelligence system, to find you. But I did find one where there was a boat being towed, so there it is. But generally, you don't see the boats. So are they being returned? I would say most probably they are, but that is my opinion. I don't have a lot of evidence other than these photographs to show that. Now, that is illegal, but legal migration over 2021, 2022, 2023 and 2024, I'm sure this will be marked up a little bit more. But over that period of time, we've had 2.34 million legal migrants coming in. And a lot of these are a different colour to the native white people. And I don't know if you've noticed, I only watch YouTube, but the one thing I am seeing is I'm seeing in the adverts, if you're a white actor that wants to get a job in adverts, you can forget it, because all our adverts are disproportionately black people. Now, whole adverts, if there's a photograph of a wedding, it's a mixed wedding and so on in these adverts. So there's a little bit of predictive programming going on, and this clearly, in my mind, is all linked. Now, a perpetual puppet show. So Boris's cabinet, Liz Truss, Rishi, and now this walking puppet here with the robotic vices. And that's what we've got now, the Labour. But nothing's changed. The only thing that's been ramped up, I would say, is the demise of the country that we live in, how it was 30 years ago. Things are changing. And you could argue bringing all these people in, low skill, low wages, eventually the whole country is going to be plunged into debt. You just can't keep bringing these people in and paying for them. Well, our taxes are going up, so probably that's what they think. But I think it's just a complete, well, we could say reset, couldn't you, over time. So, and of course, don't worry, yeah, the saviour is coming, and he is our, the reform. Nigel Farage is one of us, isn't he? But let's just take a look at a video.
It's Wednesday, the 6th of January. Parliament is debating giving the Prime Minister power to extend lockdown until perhaps the end of March. It was pretty clear to me the other night when he said the kids will be off until half term, but it could be a few weeks after that they go back. It was obvious to me it was going into March. It looks like he wants the powers for it to go on to the end of March. That of itself would be depressing enough if it wasn't for Chris Whitty, that ever cheerful figure that we see at those press conferences telling us we might have to lock down next winter because of flu. But they're in charge. However, there's a way out of this, isn't there? And the way out is vaccinations. But ask yourself, are the people currently running this country on top of their game? Well, have a think about schools. So all the schools are closed. Oh, no, they're not, because a whole load of schools had to open today because there are some students aged 17 and 18 that aren't doing A-levels, they're doing BTEC. So the schools have had to open today for the BTEC pupils to go in, and they've got exams later on this week. And then, of course, the Prime Minister said that nursery schools and early years learning centres, they would all stay open. And yet, despite the fact we're going to vaccinate nurses, we're going to vaccinate people working in care homes as a priority, as indeed we should, no provision to vaccinate those working in nurseries or early years learning. The government tell us, Boris Johnson tells us, with good luck and a following wind, by the middle of February, we may have vaccinated up to 10 million people. And it's estimated there are up to 13 million people in those primary categories that we feel need to get the vaccine first. So the only way out of this disaster, and yeah, I mean, I really think it is actually a disaster, but the weather's horrible. We face the prospects of months of this. We can't play golf. We can't go fishing. We can't go to the pub. I mean, there isn't much we can do. So the way out of this is vaccination. Now, a few days ago, I shocked many of you, particularly those who've been my supporters for years, by saying that I thought perhaps Tony Blair had a role. It was he that started the argument saying, rather than vaccinating people twice, 3 weeks apart, wouldn't it make more sense to vaccinate double the number of people and perhaps taking some of the bureaucracy out, maybe even more than double the number of people, so that they've got a high level of immunity, even if it's not the highest that could be achieved. And that argument that we should give one dose to as many people as we possibly can in short order, that argument that Blair put forward last week has worked. He makes the point. All the primary schools are closed. Why not open them up as vaccination centres? He makes the point. On polling day, we get 30 million people going through those centres.
I would actually have mobile facilities as well, going around place by place. You could use polling stations. I mean, remember, we managed on election day to get, 30 million people
we had this conversation
through the doors voting.
So why can't we have a big, rapid vaccination programme? He makes the point that there are thousands of people out there who would be well qualified to do this, whose services are not being asked for.
You've got occupational health workers, several thousand of those. They're perfectly qualified to give what is essentially a flu jab.
I'm really sorry, guys, that I had to show you that Tony Blair puppet at the end there. But as you can see, he's no saviour, that guy. He's pushed the narrative that happened in 2021, and he did use the word "we" quite a few times, the establishment. But he is a puppet. He is controlled by the world elite that's controlling everything that's going on in this world, and I mean everything. And you've got alternative media on YouTube, a lot of that, the vast majority, if not all, especially the channels that are cropping up and getting ridiculous amounts of subs, they're controlled too. And I agree with a guy called Shield Destroyer. Check his channel out. He made quite a good video talking about the establishment and the voting system, and I'll put a link in the description, so if you go along there and have a look at that. But when you, and I agree totally, when you vote in this system, you are voting for more of the same, whoever you vote for, because they're controlled. There's not a lot anybody can do about any of this. It will happen, and it'll finish when they have enough people either legally or illegally coming into the country. But that's all I've got to say for now. So thank you for listening, and thank you for watching, and goodbye, and hopefully I'll be back with another video soon. Thank you.